WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. Bloomington, Indiana is home to a wide range of live music events and venues. More info on upcoming performances at musicbloomington.com.
This is WFYI News Now. It's December 19th, and I'm Darian Benson. Later in the show, Purdue University researchers are behind a new photo of a supernova that's made its way to Washington, D.C.
It really blows me away to know that our image is currently hanging in the East Room of the White House.
That's coming up. But first, these headlines. After 29 consecutive months of state revenues that outperformed budget expectations, Indiana collections have now fallen short 2 months in a row. Brandon Smith reports on the revenue picture ahead of a new fiscal forecast.
2 months of subpar revenue collections have left Indiana $116 million short of where the state budget expected it to be, though that's less than 2% off the mark, and there are 7 months to go in the fiscal year. Republican Senator Travis Holdman says revenue collections should prompt some caution.
I think we just need to be cautious and holding back on state agency spending until we get to that first quarter of 24. I think that'll be the telltale sign of where the economy is going to land.
Sales taxes are perhaps the big worry. Sales tax collections have been below expectations for 8 consecutive months. State fiscal analysts explain away some of that by noting that the state this year began shifting gasoline sales tax dollars out of the general fund, contributing to the lower than expected figures on the revenue sheet. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
Purdue University is one of 6 colleges to get part of a multi-million-dollar grant that would revitalize nearby towns and cities. The more than $145 million Lilly Endowment Grant aims to create stronger town-gown relationships. In West Lafayette, Purdue plans to invest its $25 million in surrounding counties, specifically for quality childcare resources and transportation improvements. Many colleges plan to use the money to help with existing city projects that aim to draw more businesses and consumers. The other awardees are Ball State University, Earlham College, Taylor University, Indiana State University, and Wabash College. Full disclosure, the Lilly Endowment does fund some WFYI initiatives. That funding is not related to this reporting, and we cover the endowment like any other organization. And Pope Francis approved ordained ministers to bless couples in irregular situations Monday, including those in same-sex and unmarried relationships. The Vatican's declaration reverses its 2021 statement declaring the Catholic Church did not have the power to bless same-sex unions. The decision won't allow same-sex individuals to be married in the Church, but it will allow them to receive simple blessings. The report from the Vatican clarified that, quote, the blessing does not signify approval of the union. Still, the declaration feels validating for some LGBT Catholics in Indiana. Melly Barber is president of Dignity Now, a nationwide LGBT Catholic advocacy association. She lives in Indianapolis with her wife, who she married in the Episcopalian Church. She says she'd love to be married in the Catholic Church as well, but this feels like an important step forward.
I've already reached out to a priest friend of mine to ask when I can get my blessing for our partnership.
Barber says she hopes the decision can improve relationships between queer Catholics and their observant families.
I think there are too many families that have felt so much tension between how they support their queer children, their queer siblings. So now to have the church say, yes, we can bless these unions, just as an important step for our allies and our families as well.
The Vatican clarified that the decision won't change the Church's official doctrine that only heterosexual relationships within marriage are considered lawful. The Archdiocese of Indianapolis declined an interview, but released a statement that the doctrine is, quote, consistent with the Church's longstanding teaching and belief that no person is beyond the scope of divine mercy. Student climate advocates at Indiana University worry the university is lagging behind on implementing its climate action plan. Rebecca Thiel reports the plan was approved in September, but can't move forward until the individual campuses form their own climate committees.
Soha Vora is the president of Students for a New Green World at IU Bloomington. Though IU has a plan to become carbon neutral by 2040, she says the plan itself seems purposefully vague.
There weren't any actual hard deadlines to meet for accountability's sake. All of those goals and objectives and deadlines were pushed off onto an implementation committee that hasn't been formed yet.
Vora worries this will put the university's overall goal out of reach. But IU's chief sustainability officer says all campuses will have to finalize those committees by mid-January, and the university is working to make sure their agendas are full when they meet, researching things like federal funding for solar panels and energy efficiency, doing an inventory of its gas-powered vehicles, and finding out how to build a dashboard to track the university's progress. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
And for our final story today, Purdue University researchers are behind a new photo of a supernova included in First Lady Jill Biden's advent calendar. As Ben Thorpe reports, the photo features remnants from a celestial explosion that took place over 10,000 years ago.
Researchers at Purdue helped utilize NASA's Webb Space Telescope to photograph the explosion. Light from the exploded star first reached Earth just over 300 years ago. Danny Milisavljevic is a Purdue professor whose data contributed to the image.
It really blows me away to know that our image is currently hanging in the East Room of the White House.
Milisavljevic says he was recently naturalized as a U.S. citizen and is proud to have his photo represented by the White House. He says the explosion will create the building blocks for future stars, and this is the best image we have of one. I'm Ben Thorpe.
And a quick note before we end the show. You might recognize a name on today's episode of the NPR podcast Life Kit. Our reporter Lee Gaines has been working with NPR's education desk on a whole series about the rise of fentanyl overdoses among teens. And today on Life Kit, Lee and NPR editor Nicole Cohen explain what harm reduction is and how it can help reduce the risks of drug use. You can find the episode at npr.org/lifekit or wherever you get your podcasts. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by the following people who live in your community: Aubriana Heron, Drew Dodlin, Kendall Antron, who composed the music for this podcast, and me, Darian Benson. Our news director is Sarah Neal Estes. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. Bloomington, Indiana is home to a wide range of live music events and venues. More info on upcoming performances at musicbloomington.com.